Welcome back everyone. The movie begins on a secluded farm in the countryside. Two little French girls Lorraine and Carol play hide and seek together. Lorraine counts to 10, while Carol runs to the garage to hide. When Lorraine comes looking for her best friend, she finds her bloodied body lying limp on the ground. She had been killed by a dog. Before Carol, she too is attacked by the aggressive dog. She somehow manages to get inside the car and saves herself as the dog barks at her from the outside. Years later, Carol is still traumatized by the event. She has grown up to be a doctor. Currently she along with her colleagues Samir and Matthias are working as volunteers in the former territory of Yugoslavia. They have worked there for 3 months and plan to return home the following day. Dr. Samir invites Carol to a pub at night to celebrate their last day, but Carol declines, claiming that she doesn't want to be tired. However, when night comes she can't help but go to the pub with Samir and Matthias. Dr. Samir is clearly interested in Carol more than just a coworker. So when Matthias starts to make out with a woman at the bar, Samir starts to flirt with her. He asks her what her type in men is, but Carol bluntly tells him she only likes muscular men and he isn't one of them. Following that, they return to the living quarters. Carol is alone in the hallway when she sees a dog in the other end. She starts to freak out as the dog walks past her. Matthias finds her breathless in the hallway and asks her to take a rest. When Carol is alone in her room, she looks at a picture of her friend Lorraine on a necklace. She clearly hasn't gotten over her death and wears the necklace every day. The following day they start their journey back to France. On the way they are stopped by a roadblock. The soldier informs them that they will have to wait at least 3 hours before the road reopens. Matthias doesn't want to wait that long, so he suggests they take a shorter way that goes through the woods. Seeing no harm in doing so, Carol drives the car towards a narrow gravel road leading to the woods. A while later they reach a dead end with only fields in front of them. Samir gets mad at Matthias for leading them in the wrong direction. The two get into an argument but calm down when Carol asks them to. Matthias has a map with him, but it seems to be of no use, so he just keeps on driving until they reach a town and see a man working in the front. Samir gets out of the vehicle with the map to ask the man for directions, but because of the language difference he seems to be struggling. The stranger and Samir go inside this house. Matthias follows them behind to see what is going on while Carol explores the place. She eventually comes across a little girl with both her eyes bandaged playing on a swing. Her guardian brings the girl inside of the house after noticing Carol stare at her. Samir comes out of the house with directions to the highway and they continue the journey. Carol falls asleep listening to music while the men argue about football. A while later, the car comes to a halt because of a group of masked men blocking the way. They threaten the three with their weapons and hold them hostage. First, Carol is dragged out of the car and thrown into another van. Samir follows behind soon after, but Matthias tries to run away into the woods, only to be shot in the leg. The three are then loaded into the van and sedated. When Carol wakes up, she finds herself locked up in a dark cell with Samir. They call out for Matthias and find him in a cell opposite to theirs. However, they are not alone in the place. The cell directly in front of Carol's is occupied by a foreign man. Because of the language difference they cannot communicate with him. A while later Carol falls asleep and wakes up to the noise of dogs barking. She and Samir look out the lattice window and see their abductors repairing a car. They realize that the place they are in is a mechanic shop. Then the kidnappers enter the salon Osamir to get away from Carol in a foreign language. One of them starts touching her inappropriately. When Samir retaliates, he is tased. The men tear Carol's clothes but stop when a doctor enters the cell. He checks Samir and Carol for any injuries and leaves to do the same with Matthias. Sometime later they are given food. Matthias assumes that the abductors do not want to kill them since they are being given food and treatment. The group brainstorms the possible causes of their abduction, but come to no conclusion. The cell is equipped with only one mattress and a toilet. Carol uses the toilet as the man in the opposite cell watches her. Sometime later a phone rings in the hallways. The doctor receives the call and asks his men to bring Samir out. They forcefully drag Samir out of the cell and take him somewhere else. After a few hours the men return with 2 containers and Samir on a stretcher. Both of Samir's eyes have been taken out, and his body is fully dissected with missing organs. Carol can't help but throw up at the sight. They finally realize that they have been kidnapped for their organs. Carol looks out through the window and sees the abductors trading Samir's organs in turn for a bundle of money. The following day she wakes up to see that the cell door is wide open. She walks down the hallway and notices Matthias isn't in his cell either. Outside, she sees her childhood friend Lorraine running into a garage, and someone letting a dog after her. Just then Carol wakes up and realizes she was only dreaming. She and Matthias then talk about his sons. Matthias regrets never being around his family. Suddenly Carol hears a car arriving outside. She looks through the window and sees a car of soldiers pulling up to be repaired. She yells for help, but the doctor stops her, threatening to stab her neck with an injection. He chokes her as a threat to never to try to do something like that again. While resting, Matthias feels a metal spring inside his mattress. He suddenly gets an idea and brings the spring out. He then modifies it into a tool to break the cement around the window in hopes of escaping through it. The tools work efficiently, but in the middle of breaking it, an abductor and a doctor arrive in the cell. Matthias quickly cleans up the mess on the floor and composes himself. The doctor checks his injury, which still hasn't healed properly. Fortunately for Matthias, they leave without suspecting him. Right after he continues to break the window and is finally successful, he tries calling Carol, but she is fast asleep. He then uses the mattress in the broken window to climb up and manages to get out of the cell, only to find his abductor in front of him. The man pees on Matthias while mocking him. He kicks him back into the cell, now with an added head injury. As a consequence, they also weld the window to a metal plate, leaving with Bias with no way to escape. Following that, they take away Carol's mattress so she wouldn't try to escape as Matthias did. 7 days pass after the incident. One day, Carol hears the noise of a child crying from the other side of the wall. She believes that they have abducted a child in the other cell, but no one speaks when she calls out. So, when the kidnapper comes to give her food the next day, she pushes him aside and runs outside to find the little girl inside the other cell. The man drags her back into the cell and locks her in. Later, the girl bangs on the walls and lets her hand out to touch Carol's hand. The brief moment is interrupted by the ringing of the telephone in the hallways. The doctor picks it up and orders the other 2 kidnappers in a foreign language. They bring out the man who is in the cell opposite to Carol's, but as soon as he is gone, the phone rings again, indicating someone else is going to be killed. This time the men are ordered to take Carol out for the operation. She retaliates and tries to stop them, but they easily drag her out. She is brought to the operating room and tied to a bloody table for the surgery. As the dissected body of the other man is being wheeled out of the room, she accepts her fate. The doctor uses a tool to keep her eyes open and is about to gouge it out, but at the last moment Carol manages to get one of her hands free. She stabs the man's neck with the scalpel from the side of the bed. The doctor finally dies and she frees herself. She runs to let Matthias out, but realizes she needs a key for that. She then looks outside to find a bowl cutter by the side of the kidnappers. She tells the little girl Anna that she will be back to save both of them. Following that, she walks outside to retrieve the tool. However, her fear of dogs is triggered again. When 3 beasts of dogs guarding the cells bark at her, she somehow gathers the courage and passes them to reach a kitchen. Carol finds a woman cooking inside and stabs her with a knife on the counter. The 2 struggle for a while, which ends when Carol kills the woman by drowning her head in a pot of blood. She then carefully makes her way outside and gets to the bowl cutter without the men noticing. After getting her hands on it, she runs back to the cells, and successfully brings the other 2 out. One of the men comes inside to check on them, but before he can react to the empty cells, Matthias knocks them out with the bolt cutter. They finally run away from the place, but Matthias has a hard time because of his injured leg. Another kidnapper finds the woman's dead body in the kitchen. As soon as he realizes that the prisoners have escaped, he loads the rifle and lets the dogs free to chase after them. After a while of running, Matthias realizes he cannot make it to the end. He asks Carol to run away with the little girl, because they still have a chance. The girls run away, but the dogs eventually catch up to Matthias. He knocks out one of them, but the other 2 tear his limbs apart and finally kill him. The girls see a military jeep in the front and try to catch their attention, but are unsuccessful. The kidnappers soon catch up with them in their car. Carol tells Anna to run into a nearby cornfield and hide while she draws the dogs and the kidnappers' attention towards herself. As the dogs chase Carol, they stumble upon a grenade string and blow up. While Carol comes out of the explosion unharmed, she runs into the cornfield as one of the kidnappers chases her with his rifle. She eventually finds the other one trying to drag Anna out and kills him with a stone. Now the last kidnapper sees the 2 of them and shoots Carol in the stomach. When he is finally about to kill her, she grabs a piece of wood and rams it in his foot. When he is distracted, she takes his rifle and shoots him in the head. In the end, Carol and Anna are saved by 2 soldiers. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel to receive more videos like this, and I will post every day a new video. Thanks for watching, guys.